It took me over 50 years to learn this, and I want you to catch it sooner because there's a moment people miss, and it's what drains your energy later. It doesn't look like a big deal when it happens. It's subtle. You're about to say something, and you switch it at the last second. My whole life, I've been someone who takes care of everybody else. There were so many times when I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't. But if you're like me, you learned early on that if you weren't, you'd be selfish. Or maybe you didn't feel truly seen or allowed to speak your truth. So instead, I'd think, I don't want to go. This takes too much energy. Or this just doesn't feel right. And then almost right away, I'd talk myself out of it. And that right there is where this starts. So let's slow this down and see what's actually happening. You think one thing and you change it. That's because your brain is trying to keep things simple. So when something in you says, I don't want to go, another thought might quickly come in. It's easier to do that, or this really isn't a big deal, because it avoids that friction, that tension that comes with making a different choice. And if you're the type of person who picks up on how other people feel, you may adjust and adapt even faster. So over time, this becomes automatic. It doesn't feel like you changed your answer. It just feels to you like you're being reasonable. That's why it's hard to catch that moment. But with awareness, it becomes easier to see. This happened to me recently when a friend wanted to change our normal plans. At the time, I did what I always did. I didn't stop to check in. I just went along with it. Yeah, that works. Not a big deal, right? Wrong, because later I felt irritated. But I wasn't mad at her. I was mad at myself. And it was enough to get my attention to figure out what was going on with me. So when I replayed that conversation, as we do when we ruminate, I could see it. There was a point when I realized I really wasn't on board with the change in plans. So instead of communicating that, I just barreled right through. I didn't slow down, and I didn't pay attention to what my body was telling me. And I realized this wasn't the first time I've done this. And once you notice it, you start seeing where it shows up in other parts of your life. This can happen in everyday moments. See if any of these resonate with you. You might get a message and the person asks, can you come earlier? And you automatically text back, that works. Or you're in a conversation and you start to say what you really think, but then you stop yourself mid-sentence and change the direction, saying something like, that doesn't really, well, I guess so. Or you might even say, that makes sense, when it really doesn't. I've done this more times than I can count in my lifetime, and it might look normal on the outside. But is it really? Because I didn't give myself a chance to be real honest with myself. I was doing what would just keep things smooth, keep the peace, and make it really easy. And the thing is, it doesn't end there. It shows up the next time when something comes up. Have you ever done any of these things? Instead of being clear with what you want, you start to avoid. Maybe it takes a little bit longer for you to respond, hoping it just kind of passes or just kind of goes away. Or you go to that thing, but you're quieter, maybe less present, maybe halfway checked out. And it's not because of the other person, it's because we don't honor how we feel. And this is where it can start affecting relationships. It's not always in big, obvious ways. It can be in small shifts. Less open, less engaged, not fully there. So instead of being direct, we might start putting more distance between ourselves and other people. This could lead to a tight chest, an upset stomach, maybe really tight shoulders, and maybe eventually chronic stress. Then when we're in midlife, some bigger things can happen. Maybe our kids don't need us the way they used to. Your schedule opens up, our relationship may change or end. And if you're already doing some inner work, you might start to see how these things no longer feel right. And you're questioning, what's wrong? You don't want to do things the way you always did. And you start to realize this isn't just a moment in time, but this is a pattern. People say it takes 21 days to form a habit. Science shows it's actually closer to 66 days. Could be more, could be less. So it's no wonder that something you've done for years or a lifetime feels completely normal. And this is where it's not just a habit, it's about how you've been relating to other people. Or you adapted. Maybe like me when I was a child, learned how to walk on eggshells, and that didn't stop until after my marriage was over. I had to get real with myself Do I want to keep going down this road, or do I want to do something different with my life? It was really about how I wanted to show up in this world, the healthier way, being balanced with greater peace of mind, which is part of learning healthy boundaries. But when you start doing things differently, you might notice something right away. You second guess it, you wonder if you should just gone along with it, or it feels really weird being more direct, really uncomfortable and awkward. You're just not used to staying with yourself yet. Remember how we said the brain wants to keep things simple and clear and keep us safe? I sometimes overcorrect, especially if I start feeling or I feel more emotionally charged around a situation. And that's where I like that 24 to 48 hour rule, as needed before reacting, so I don't say anything I might regret. This is what I'm trying to start working on now. When I start sending a response and then I stop and I go to change it, that's the moment. Take a pause. Check in with yourself. Is this really a yes for you? And if you're not sure, just say, let me get back to you. I just need a moment to think about this. This is what we work on in Release and Rise, not just noticing, but how to respond differently, especially during midlife and these in-between phases that we go through. If you're interested, you can learn more in the description below. So think about the last time this happened for you. How did you respond? Do you remember what you noticed about how you were feeling? And what would you have done differently? It's okay to change your mind. In fact, I'd argue that it's a good thing to do so when it feels right, so you're living your authentic life. So don't be like me, taking 50 years to start figuring this out. It's never too late to change your mind. People get used to the version of you that's showing up, and it might be awkward and weird at first when people start to see you behave and act differently. And I feel it starts with kindness, first with ourselves, which of course we are going to be able to extend to others. Then we're showing up in our true, authentic way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.